But first, I want to interact with a Jewish guest. His name is Mikey Weinstein. He's the founder of what is called the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. I would say that that is quite ironically named. Really, it's double speak, the so-called Military Religious Freedom Foundation. And he has written, quote, "We face incredibly well-funded gangs of fundamentalist Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's armed forces." Mikey Weinstein has consulted with the Pentagon. If you've heard reports that people who actively share their faith could potentially be court-martialed by the Air Force, there is truth in those reports, and Mikey Weinstein is a key person behind them. So let me put out a question for you first before I share some more quotes from our guest and bring him on the air. If you have been in the military, have you seen the activity of these so-called well-funded gangs of fundamentalist Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's armed forces? If you have been in the armed forces, have you been terrorized by Christians? Have you been terrorized by evangelical Christians who are officers above you? Does this sound like a myth to you, a tall tale? Have you encountered this yourself? According to my guest, Mikey Weinstein, he writes, let me tell you of monsters and monstrous wrongs, and let me tell you what these bloody monsters thrive on. Speaking of evangelical Christians in the military, we just have 1 minute before our first segment ends, but welcome to the broadcast, Mr. Weinstein. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Do I call you Dr. Brown? Is that the best way to do it?
Well, tell you what, how about I call you Mikey and you call me Michael?
Ah, very nice. Well, the only one that calls me Michael is my wife of 36 years when she gets angry. But I will definitely call you Michael.
All right, you call me Michael. I'll call you Mikey then. And I've been Mike or Michael all my life. Been married 37 years. All right, tell you what, I want you to chew on this because we've got a break and then we've got an extended time to talk. Honestly, sir, when I read the quotes from some of your articles, I actually thought it was made up. I thought there was a parody and someone was mocking a position. When I heard reports about what was happening in the Army and potential threats about proselytizing, I thought the whole thing was bogus. And the quotes I read from you, sir, were about the most intolerant, bigoted, Christophobic, hateful things I've ever seen in my life, and I felt totally misinformed, that they were totally misinformed. So that's my take on it. You get to talk when we come back right here on The Line of Fire.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown, your voice of moral, cultural, and spiritual revolution. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Okay, now watch this. I don't know that I've had a guest on with whom I had such profound differences, but he and I are going to be totally civil with each other. I'll certainly be civil with him. I'll give him full opportunity to speak and respond. My guest is Mikey Weinstein on this Thoroughly Jewish Thursday here on The Line of Fire. He is the founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, which from my perspective is oddly named. And here every day, my host comes on saying I'm your voice of moral, cultural, spiritual revolution. And every day we talk about the Jesus revolution is not fought with human weapons. We overcome hatred with love. We overcome evil with good. We don't take life. We give life. We lay our lives down for others. And here I am, a Jewish follower of Jesus, indebted to evangelical Christians. I've written about anti-Semitism in church history. I've seen philo-Semitism for 41 years as a follower of Jesus around the world. My guest, Mikey Weinstein, has a very different perspective. So, sir, I was so shocked reading those quotes. I have friends in the military. I've been traveling in evangelical Christian circles for 41 years. I was shocked. Like I said, it seemed to me some of the most intolerant, bigoted, and misinformed stuff I've ever read. I want to give you your say to explain why you said it. So the ball's in your court, sir.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be on your show, and I'm very pleased you were shocked. I hope that I can shock you even more with our interview today. I want to give your listeners a chance to hear something different. You and I live in different space-time continuums, brother. I listened to the commercials during the break. I hear where you're coming from. Apparently, you were ethnically born Jewish, and you're either a Messianic Jew or you're just you just describe yourself as a Christian. I describe myself as I'm Jewish. I pray 3 times a day in Hebrew, but I'm probably more of a jagnostic, Jewish agnostic. I'm the president and founder of, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. You can find us on the web at militaryreligiousfreedom.org. We represent, Michael, 33,135 as of about 10 minutes ago, because it goes up every day. Active duty United States sailors, soldiers, Marines, and airmen, cadets and midshipmen at West Point, which is where my special assistant went, the Air Force Academy, where I graduated, my brother-in-law graduated, and 4 of my children graduated, and the Naval Academy in Annapolis, where my father graduated. Listen carefully, please, and make sure your seatbelt and shoulder harness at the Dr. Brown Show are on snugly. But 96% of our clients are practicing and devout Protestants or Roman Catholics, being told that they are not Christian enough in the military. We represent just under 12% of all Muslim Americans in the U.S. military, and we have 5 Nobel Peace Prize nominations, 5 in the last 4 years, including one this year. We were nominated in the last 2 years by prior winners of the Nobel Peace Prize. Calling me anti-Christian gets me angry, very, very angry. And that's like saying that I'm anti-driver. I'm against anybody that drives a car, which is actually true, Michael, if they're driving DUI or in violation of the driving laws. We fight only a small portion of Christianity, which is not evangelical or mainline or Christianity at all. Our largest growth area are evangelical Christians. They're on our board. They donate to us. They're our supporters, and they're clients of ours. We fight what is known as fundamentalist or dominionist Christians that have become an alloy in the U.S. military. If you may remember, Michael, the most famous speech by Eisenhower was his farewell speech when he warned Americans about you may remember the so-called military-industrial complex. But we fight here at the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and the words I used in my regular column on the Huffington Post regarding monsters, etc., look very closely at it, because we use the term fundamentalist Christian monsters, and fundamentalist Christian is synonymous with dominionist Christian.
Who uses that word? Yeah, just for clarity, because
I'm almost done.
Go ahead, please.
Bear with me, and let me give you the difference. Every fundamentalist, or its synonym, dominionist, and for anyone listening to the show, please take the time to Google Dominion Christianity. Every one of them is an evangelical Christian because they follow the Great Commission, Mark 16:15, Matthew 28:19 is their prime directive. But not every evangelical is a fundamentalist or dominionist, which is why so many evangelicals are part of our organization. They donate, and they're clients. The difference is that they both want to proselytize, and fulfill the Great Commission, which we support wholeheartedly, with one major difference, which is why I'm glad you give me the chance today. That's all I've asked for is a chance. The difference is that evangelicals will say, whoa, I have to comport my zeal to proselytize everyone and to fulfill the Great Commission in accordance with the time and the place and the manner restrictions put forth by our United States Constitution and its construing federal and state case law, and in the military, as well as Department of Defense directives, regulations, and instructions. Fundamentalist, or the synonym Dominion Christians, say to hell with that. There is no time, there is no place, there is no manner, there are no laws, there are no courts, there are no regulations that can possibly restrict us in carrying out our zeal to proselytize the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's as simple as that. We are not a complex meal, Michael, like Chateaubriand. We're a hamburger. Those are the Christians that my otherwise seemingly harsh words were directed to, and I'm proud of them, and I want to make them harsher if I possibly can.
All right. Now, what I do want to point out is the harsher they are, the more you disqualify yourself, and you'll have full time to respond as well.
Okay.
So,
no, you've been very nice. Go ahead.
No, of course, and that's why I prefaced everything where I stand on issues, so you would know that, and then I wanted to give you a platform to explain things, and we'll be able to continue to interact here. But
sure.
in my mind, the more shrill your rhetoric, the harder it is to take you seriously, and the more shrill your rhetoric, the more you seem like a fanatic who's out to spill blood. In other words, it completely undoes the cause. But the bigger problem I have is that I'm in the evangelical Christian world. I'm in the Messianic Jewish world as well. I'm a Jewish follower of Jesus. I've got a PhD in Near Eastern languages and literatures, which was part of my studies along the way in interacting with rabbis since I came to faith at the age of 16. And to my actual surprise, my joyful surprise, I found myself getting blackballed by groups like the SPLC that you seem to lean on. I'm listed as
organization to us, yeah.
And they're a hate group. They've disqualified themselves with bogus information. I've documented it in article after article. It's a disgrace, actually. They've got blood on their hands with the shooting in Washington, D.C. that thankfully didn't get worse than it was at FRC. But I know these folks. I've been at meetings behind closed doors with FRC leaders and things like that. And I've never once heard a syllable of the dominionist stuff from any of their lips. We've never used the word, or I've never heard it. I got put on the SPLC list along with Malik Zulu Shabazz, leader of the New Black Panthers, David Duke, former Grand Wizard of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and neo-Nazis and white supremacists and all this. And I was actually on it. I wrote an article telling them they made my day because it was so absurd. As one of the new leaders of the radical right, because I'm, quote, anti-gay, meaning I have compassion for all people. I'd lay down my life to protect any other person, but I don't think we should redefine marriage or rewrite the Bible. So now I'm on this list. And to me, if we were talking about the Fred Phelps of the world, the God hates fags, or somebody's going to go kill an abortion doctor, then yeah, we stand shoulder by shoulder about that. But the groups you're blasting, and from one report, I see that you said roughly 12.6% of the American public, or 38 million people. Is that accurate, or is that a misquote of you?
No, that's very accurate. That's our best sense of it. We think it's somewhere in about 28% of the military are dominionist or fundamentalist Christians. And like I said, it's very important for us. My first book, when it came out from the largest publisher in New York, is called With God on Our Side, Michael, and the subtitle is One Man's War Against an Evangelical Coup in America's Military. I made a mistake. I wish I could change the title. It was about 2 years into this fight, and we're into it in our 10th year right now, that I began to realize that evangelicals were coming to us and begging for help. I wish I could have changed it to one man. And of course, our foundation has about 150 people in it, but that with one man's war against a dominionist or fundamentalist fight. Why do you think my wife and I formed this foundation? Because SPLC, Americans United, People for the American Way, all these other organizations are fine. But Michael, quick question, yes or no, sir? Have you ever been in the U.S. military, sir?
No, sir. My dad was.
It is an unbelievably tribal, adversarial, communal, and ritualistic environment. That boss there in the military, even if it outranks you just by one stripe or one bar, is not like your shift manager at Starbucks. My family has over 130 years of combined active duty military service in pretty much every major combat engagement the country's been in, from World War I to this current so-called global war on terror. Half my family is Christian. In that half, we have evangelical Christians whose actual last name is Christian. So when someone calls me anti-Christian, I'm a trial lawyer myself. We go and we talk to our law firms, which is why we're looking hard at going after Michelle Bachmann and all of those out there, as opposed to being meanies, who've been calling me a commie, leftist, self-loathing Jew. There's a long list of things out there. My point is that I guess it's probably you made a decision. You were born Jewish, much like Jay Sekulow at the American Carnival of Lousy Justice, the ACLJ, and many others. And I don't know what you feel about the Alliance Defending Freedom folks either.
Some of my closest friends work there. One of my grads worked there, and Jay Sekulow is a friend. Tell you what, if you can stay on, come back, let you get another word in. I just want you to know, with every new word, you're kind of disqualifying yourself. The more extreme the rhetoric, especially with this audience. And the SPLC, I have exposed complete errors in reports. I've physically been there and they misreport.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown. Get into the Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
I propose a book exchange. I will send Mikey Weinstein, founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, which he is very devoted to, I feel is wrongly named. I will send him my book, The Real Kosher Jesus, even the hardcover version. if he'll send me his first book or whichever he feels is most relevant. I know you've got another interview to go to, but I didn't want to cut you off there, sir. We have had to edit language just slightly, so if you go back and listen to the edited version, one of the words will be missing. So what about the deal? We do a book exchange? You willing to do it?
Actually, I almost prefer to do it. My other book that came out from Vireo just a year ago is called No Snowflake, about a year and 2 months ago, No Snowflake in an Avalanche, which is from the great Voltaire quote, no snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. I think the big difference here, and by the way, I apologize for using the bad word. I didn't. To me, that's not a bad word. But
no, trust me, I've watched some of your clips, and I'm aware that for you that was restrained. I understand.
I'm doing my very best, and I must say that I do a lot more Christian networks than you might expect, and you're being very restrained yourself, and I appreciate that. I'd be happy to come on again. Let me just say this. I'm trying to see if we can find some common ground because, if you believe half of what you hear about me, I'll believe half of what I hear about you. Ultimately, all we're saying is that when you tell somebody in the U.S. military, Michael, that you lack dignity, worth, intelligence, courage, honor, honorability, trustworthiness, because of your chosen religious faith or lack thereof, there is no difference between that and telling someone that they're stupid because of the color of their skin or because they were born a woman. You and I are going to disagree about almost everything, probably starting with music. You're probably not a fan of heavy metal like I am, and I'm probably not a fan of what you're a fan of.
I was a hippie rock drummer when I came to faith at the age of 16, but my Jimi Hendrix records, I got rid of them a long time ago.
Do you like Bruce Springsteen?
Well, after 71, I didn't listen to it as much, but no, I'm not a Springsteen fan anyhow. But that's another discussion for another day.
Well, here's the bottom line. The bottom line that your audience can listen to on this one is, as I said before, the vast majority of our own staff, our donor pool, and certainly our clients, 96%, are either Protestant or Roman Catholic. We have 21 different varieties of Baptists alone who support us. But let me make it clear. We are a militant and aggressive organization, and our militancy and aggression is in support of the U.S. Constitution. One of my heroes, so that everyone can gloriously and comprehensively celebrate whatever faith or no faith they want, but not being forced to by the most technologically most lethal organization ever created by humankind, Michael, which is our U.S. military. One of my heroes is Martin Luther King Jr., and his mantra was, "We shall overcome." And I don't believe that Martin would have been as effective as he was, and he's one of my biggest heroes, had not at the same time there been another civil rights fighter, Malcolm X, and his mantra was, "No, we shall come over." We are not. I guess if you've ever had a dog or cat, Michael?
Sure.
If you care about animal rights, on one side of the spectrum, you've got the Humane Society. They're very sweet. They're very nice. They're very chilled. No one doesn't like them. Everyone loves them. The far end of the spectrum, you've got PETA. I guess I would say we're PETA when it comes to the separation of church and state, where all the nuclear weapons and drones are. Remember, if your audience doesn't like it, I don't care. I'm not running for office. I will say this, although I disagree about everything with you, pretty much everything. You're professional and courteous, and it might be fun to do the show another time.
Yeah, or perhaps we could even do a face-to-face debate in a city. I've done many public debates, and that might be something fruitful.
Let me know, and we'll see if we can set something up.
Yeah, and just my closing words to you. And the way this is who I am, so there are no buttons in me to push. I believe these things passionately. We militantly disagree. I absolutely agree that no one should be forced or coerced or put in an uncomfortable situation where their well-being in the military or their position in the military would be in any way threatened by their faith or lack of faith. We should have absolute freedom to share our faith, but with civility and common decency. We should all agree with that. We're not out to fight Jesus wars in the Middle East or other parts of the world, so I think we agree on that. I would totally disagree with your characterization of the vast, vast, vast majority of evangelical Christians, including those you consider dominionists. And even in that sense, it's as people come to faith in Jesus and lives are changed, that's how we, quote, change the world. That's what the revolution message is to me. So one of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes, we found an area of commonality or appreciation for Dr. King. He said, the church must be reminded it's not the master of the state nor the servant of the state, but the conscience of the state. And that's what I seek to live by. It's great talking with you. I appreciate we can air our differences, and we have them in a civil manner. And my producer, Matt, will get back to you folks. We'll do our book exchange. All right, thanks so much.
Great. I'll leave you with one final quote from the great Frederick Douglass. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Our job is to be the demanders of the commanders for those who have no voice.
All right, and I will stand up for the voiceless in Jesus' name as well. My guest, Mikey Weinstein, and let's pray for Mikey.